times after that, he didn't think that it was a hoax then. In fact, he helped me. He got on the phone. He told me things that were helping our investigation.
The question now, why has he changed his tune? Another question, will today's plea convince enough Republicans to force the White House into releasing all the Epstein files and not regarding it as, what was the word, a Democrat hoax? Right now, only 4 Republicans have publicly backed a push to trigger a vote that would do that. Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace. 2 more. A hostile act. So what happens if other Republicans stand on the sidelines? Or one Epstein survivor says, you know what, we'll make our own list.
Us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know who were regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors.
I'm joined now by Epstein survivor Danielle Bensky. Also here with us is Lauren Hirsch. She is the National Director of World Without Exploitation, which organized this morning's Survivors Rally in Washington, D.C. I want to welcome you both. I understand and can appreciate how challenging today alone must be. So I want to just dive in a little bit to your personal journey that got you here. And just tell me a little bit about why it is you wanted to share what happened to you and what you want people to know.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having us today, especially after this day that felt really empowering. It feels amazing to be here and be able to continue our message and continue to share. I was an aspiring dancer and really was hoping to be a ballerina, and I had met Jeffrey. I was recruited by a woman. I was in a bathroom talking to a friend and saying, you know, we really need to make some money. What can we do? We can waitress, we can do all these things. And this woman approached us and said, I know a way for you to make $300. You're going to meet this, you know, older man who's, you know, very powerful. And so I went with my friend at first, and then through a series of there was quite some time that passed, and my mother was diagnosed with a brain tumor. So anyway, I thought he was in the medical profession, and I brought him my mother's brain scans, and basically at that point he had said, so what are you going to do for this? You know, can you procure more girls? Can you bring me your friends? And at that point I was like, absolutely not. Like, that's not something, and I didn't.
At that point, had you massaged him or
yes,
in some way?
yeah. So there was an ongoing series of massages. First, my friend and I went together, and then he separated us, and it was fully clothed, and then systematically. I mean, there's a systematic working pattern that happens where. Jeffrey was very, very good at using the manipulation tactics to be like, oh, just take that off, you know, and sort of put you in this vulnerable place where now you sort of trust him. It's such a it was so manipulative.
You were just 17?
17 years old, yeah, 17 to 18. And I did go back a bit, and then finally when my mother's brain scans came through, I did bring them to him, and he said, what will you do? I know all the top anesthesiologists, or, you know, so like I can either help you or hurt you, basically was the sentiment. And I was very scared. I felt very, very afraid. And
because if he didn't help you, you could possibly lose your mom.
Yeah, I mean, that is what it felt like to me at the time. Again, like 17-year-old dancer, my mom was my coach, she was my best friend, she was so many things to me. And so it felt like a very dire situation in my life. And then he basically said, like, well, if you're not going to procure anybody for me, then what are you going to do? You know, so
and you felt uncomfortable procuring anyway, as you say, because...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I knew what was happening to me was so wrong, but there's so much shame that's associated in that, especially at that age, I felt like I had walked myself into that situation, so I was responsible, you know, but when you think about it, I I mean, he just manipulated us all so much. And when you walk into the mansion and you see the mantle with all of these famous figures, I mean, you just
People you knew.
yeah, I mean, it was very famous people, and he would often talk on the phone. And again, I can't say, you know, everybody says name the names, but I didn't see the people. He said that they were on the phone, you know, but that I can't commit to that, right? So it was
How convenient to try to tell you
yeah,
how powerful he was.
absolutely. The wild part about it was after it would end, for that time being, I would go back into the dance studio, and I remember I couldn't look at myself in the mirror in leotard and tights, so I would bundle myself up and, you know, tons of clothes, and I would just stand there.
Baggy clothing to not
Yeah.
reveal your figure.
Exactly. I
What
could
was it
not.
about seeing your body after those events
I felt like he defiled it. I felt like there was a huge separation between my emotional state and my physical state, and I couldn't connect the two again.
Why do you think it's important for the Epstein files to be released?
I think it's justice for all of us. I think that we need to stop things like this from perpetuating. I think looking forward, if it's not going to be Jeffrey Epstein, it'll be somebody else in power. And it's so much bigger. That's what I realized this week. The scope of this is so much bigger than any of us ever knew. We felt so siloed, or at least I did. I didn't even think that there were so many other survivors. They started coming forward. Originally, there were only 7, right? And now we know there are hundreds and maybe even thousands.
Just the common themes, the connective tissue is unnerving to think about, and the length of time this has gone on. And then you have the President of the United States who addressed following the press conference. I want to play for you what he had to say and have you respond. Listen.
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. I understand that we were subpoenaed to give files, and I understand we've given thousands of pages of files, and I know that no matter what you do, it's going to keep going. And I think it's enough, because I think we should talk about the greatness of our country and the success that we're having.
You had a visceral reaction to this being called a Democratic hoax.
All of us standing up there today, our lives are not hoaxes. We know this. We're not trying to scam anybody. We're not trying to make it political at all, actually. It's not a political issue. It's a human issue.
There are questions about Congress's limitations, what DOJ is going to give, what they haven't given, what Congress can ask for in the hearing processes. There's been talk about survivors making their own sort of list. Do you know anything about that? Is that happening?
You know, everybody says, say the names. You know, we got into Congress yesterday and we heard Marjorie Taylor Greene just say the names, right? Let us know who it is. And I feel like you kind of have to follow the paper trail a little bit. You know, there's a piece of litigation that I worked on with my lawyer, Sigrid McCauley, almost 2 years ago. And that was for the executors of the estate and also the lawyer and the accountant of Jeffrey Epstein, you know, and this whole enterprise. And their names are out there. They have been out there. And when we sat there in Congress, it's like, well, why hasn't anybody told us this before? And so for victims...
Why hasn't anyone told you what? That there were the names of
their
accountants or lawyers?
Yeah.
What were those names before?
Not from what it felt like in that room. And that is where it felt like there was such a disconnect. Like it felt... I loved being in that room for a number of reasons. I did feel like it was totally bipartisan, and that was so great that everybody felt like we were on the same side of justice. And when does that ever happen, when you get that experience? And also to be women sitting up there and being able to share our message, it was just incredible. But in that same vein, it's sort of like, well, why haven't you guys told us this? And it's like, you've never had a seat at the tables.
What did you think when you heard that Ghislaine Maxwell was going to have an audience with the number 2 at the Department of Justice? And then, after that, for whatever reason, we do not know, was moved from one prison to one that's now considered kind of a camp.
It's atrocious. It is appalling and atrocious, and I don't, words fail me with what a disservice and what an injustice that is.
You mentioned earlier that you never had any connection with Ghislaine. She was not the woman in the bathroom when she recruited you.
Nothing.
When you look at the people who you know you had different contacts with, do you feel that anyone along that line has been held to account besides?
No, and for me, you know, for me, it's always yes, rich and powerful people, yes, we need to go after them. But when you walk into that house, it is the butler, the maid, the people that brought me upstairs. Like, he had a whole system, and it felt very culty.
You think each person along that line knew?
It had to have. I mean, truly had to have known. They knew about the massage room. There would be people that were cleaned up after. I mean, it is appalling to me that even at the base level, we felt like ghosts, and they saw girls in and out of that building. People that lived on the same block watched us go in and out daily, and nobody spoke up. So my question is, like, were people being blackmailed? Were they being sorted? Like, I don't know the inner workings. So for me, it's always, I want to know more about the inner workings. I want to have my own FBI case file. I would like to see that. I don't remember a lot of the things that happened to me because I was
DOJ not
disassociated.
spoken to you?
No.
No prosecutors had a conversation with you about having. You've never been asked names. I know you've been asked names in Congress.
Through my lawyer.
Your lawyer.
Yeah, that's it.
Many people are asking the questions about, particularly very high powerful people, the President of the United States, whether survivors have seen anything personally. Do you have anything to share?
Not with that. But I mean, it was an enterprise. And it's not just two people acting alone, Jeffrey and Ghislaine. There was a whole system in place. So why and how could that run like a business? It's an operation. I don't understand how we still haven't gotten to the bottom of the logistics of that. That is justice for us, I think.
If you could distill what is wanted by survivors in this instance, in terms of what message needs to be heard, have you heard that?
I mean, I think that the message is very clear from survivors. They want accountability for all parties who were involved. And as Danny said, it wasn't just two people. There were a lot of people who were participating in this exploitation, and those people have never been held to account. So that's critically important. The other piece is they want to make sure that there is no pardon, right? That seems like, and not just a pardon, but any sort of leniency for Ghislaine Maxwell.
What is your reaction to even the discussion of a prospect of a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
Yeah, I mean, again, words fail me because I look at, we call each other survivor sisters. I look at these beautiful people and I know their stories, and it is how they are not being heard in her case, like in that case, how they spoke to her and they didn't even know she was being moved. I mean, it's just an atrocity. It cannot happen.
You know, one of the more painful things I remember as a prosecutor was the compromises that were made. The way the sausage was made, stomach turning. If a pardon is the way in which to get others to be held to account, would that change your perspective?
I think there has to be a different way in. I mean, she's a convicted pedophile at this point. Like, she, beyond co-conspirator, all of these words are putting it mildly for her. Like, she engaged in sexual acts with young 17, 16, like underage women. And not only that, she groomed them. And half of what she says is a bunch of lies anyway. So I don't even know why it's a conversation at this point.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Laura.
I should note, Ghislaine Maxwell has denied all allegations of wrongdoing and is appealing her convictions. But there's much more on Epstein ahead. Thomas Massey, Margaret Taylor Greene standing up to pressure from the White House, and there is something brewing. Could involve naming names on the House floor. Plus, I wonder if he misses the Big Apple. And if President Trump is about to get involved in the New York City mayoral race, as the word on the street might be. The new reporting tonight about a potential effort to stop a mayor Mamdani. And later, health groups blaming RFK Jr. for the chaos and confusion at CDC, as Florida's Surgeon General says, hold live here.
The Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor,